Now to a father in Utah who is fighting to be with his son, a boy he has never seen before, all because he says the boy was secretly adopted. According to Jake Strickland, learning about his girlfriend's pregnancy was great news. He looked forward to having his firstborn son, but it turned out that not only did the girlfriend lie about being married, she also secretly gave away their son for adoption, all without his permission. Now, 3 years later, Strickland is still fighting a law in Utah that lets the adoption go through even though he had no say in the matter. Joining us now is that father, Jake Strickland. Also with us is Jake Strickland's attorney, who is suing many of the parties involved in what he calls a conspiracy. Also live with us is Utah Senator TODD WEILER, who has been following the case very closely. And by the way, we did reach out to the attorney representing the mother in this case, and he had no comment. Welcome to all of you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us. I do appreciate it. I'm going to ask you all if you'll be patient with me, Wes and Senator WEILER. I'd like to sort of unpeel this, if you will, like an onion, and start with you, Jake. Let's just go back to the beginning. Tell me what your reaction was when you learned that your girlfriend was pregnant, that you were going to be a father.
Well, when I first learned of it, I was shocked, but you know what? After the shock wore off, I got excited. It was something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but I mean, the time was never right. And then it was a big shock, I guess.
And when you learned that, when you learned it, Jake, what did you do? What action did you take, either in that relationship or otherwise?
Well, we'd only been dating for about 3 months, but I asked her to be my steady girlfriend, and she got really enthused about it, and we started dating more and more and started planning.
Okay, and so tell me briefly, because we've got a lot to get through in a very small amount of time, how did it come to be that your girlfriend was able to adopt your son without your knowledge or permission?
Well, I moved away to Texas for work to get some more money to save up and pay off my debt and save up for the baby. I think she started planning it around then, and when I got back from Texas, we were dating for a little bit, and then we broke up. And every time, like, I'd take her to doctor's appointments, but a lot of the time she would say that the appointment was canceled or changed. And I think she was meeting with the adoptive parents there, and she just constantly lied. I didn't see it then, but I see it now, and like, it was just lie after lie. I
want to move on to your attorney, Wes. Before I do, Jake, very quickly, at that time, during that stage, did you demonstrate an interest and ability in being a father and a parent to this child?
Very much so. I supported Whitney financially. I took her to doctor's appointments. I set up a nursery for my son. I bought a crib. I was completely ready. I had money saved up. I was ready to go and be a dad.
Okay, sit tight, Jake. Wes, I want to come to you. How is this even possible? How is Whitney able to adopt a child without the consent of the biological father?
Well, Utah is very unique, Debbie, in terms of having what I refer to as a fraud immunity statute. It's legalized fraud in Utah. By statute, it says that a birth mother or anyone working with a birth mother can intentionally defraud a birth father, and that is not a basis to undo an adoption. And so it becomes judicially immune from attack to try and overturn it.
That seems almost unbelievable. So tell me what actions that you are taking now. Where are you in the process in trying to reunite Jake with his son?
Well, it's really a two-prong approach. We have a custody matter involving a motion to set aside the adoption that is currently on appeal to the Utah Court of Appeals. The lawsuit that we just filed this last week, on Friday of last week, is a matter dealing with the conspiracy to commit fraud against Jake, and that involves everyone that had a hand to play in this, including the agency that coerced the legal father, meaning the estranged husband of the birth mother, coercing him into signing away his rights and telling him to keep his mouth shut about what the true plans were in this case, because he expressed to the agency that, look, it's my understanding the birth father's planning on co-parenting. And so there was also a conspiracy to keep things quiet between the paternity action in the paternity court and the adoption court the paternity court said, look, this matter needs to be consolidated into the adoption. And we believe that the attorneys, as officers of the court, had obligations to disclose to each other where the courts were and keep them fully informed, which they did not do. And they kind of rushed the adoption through.
All right, Senator Ted Weiler, you've waited very patiently. I want to come to you now. I'm sure you have reaction to some of the things that have been said. I guess I'm going to start my question here, and that is, where did Jake Strickland go wrong to find himself in this situation?
Well, I think Jake first went wrong by dating a married woman and getting her pregnant. She was a coworker. He was 24 years old or 23 when they started dating. And then he really went wrong with, after meeting with his own attorney 4 months before the birth and learning that he would lose all of his rights if he didn't file with the state registry, he chose to not file with the state registry. And then he really went wrong on December 23rd. He testified in his deposition in a prior legal action that he was contacted by his girlfriend's husband and told about the adoption and that he was being asked to sign a consent, and he still did nothing a week before the child was born. So, you know, it's kind of a triple play, if you will, of mistakes there.
Now, let me go back to you, Jake, and I'm sure you want to respond to these, and I particularly want to understand why you didn't sign the petition that would validate you as the parent.
I don't know what you want me to interject, Debbie, but we've got misinformation all over the place here. First of all, Jake did not know that she was married, and Jake can speak to these issues. She lied about even being married. Second of all, Jake was not represented by an attorney until after he filed his paternity action and filed an affidavit and filed a parenting plan and filed with Utah Vital Records. He did all of those things on his own. So I don't know where the good Senator Weiler is getting his information that he met with an attorney 4 months before the child was born. But Jake, you can speak to some of those issues.
Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, I did not know she was married. She was married when we first met, but then I was told that she was getting a divorce, and then when we started dating, she had told me that her divorce was finalized, and she completely lied about that.
Let me jump in there, Jake. Is it true that you had the opportunity to sign some paperwork that you would declare yourself the father of this child, and you didn't sign that? Is that true?
Yes, I talked to Whitney about it, and when I brought it up, she flipped out. And believe you me, I was scared out of my mind that I would never get to see my son. Obviously, that's exactly what's happened. But back then, she flipped out and said that she wouldn't let me see my son at all. She wouldn't let me have any contact, and I just had to pay child support. So I freaked out, and I said, as long as you promise not to do anything, we'll get this figured out and do it. Yeah, that was a stupid mistake on my part.
Do you regret making that decision?
Very much so.
Senator Weiler, I want to come back to you. Would you agree or not agree that this law is a little bit, I don't even know what to call it, perhaps ridiculous, but certainly ironic? Here is a biological father who actually wants to parent in this day and age, and shouldn't the law support him, not be against him?
Well, you know, I think that the laws that we have in Utah are working just fine. If Jake would have followed the advice of the attorney he met with, Corey Wall, 4 months before the birth, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Jake made a choice to not file with the registry. The child was born in a marriage to a married couple, and under Lord Mansfield's rule that goes back centuries to England, a child born in a marriage is legally assumed to be a byproduct of that marriage.
I understand that. I want to jump in because we really are running out of time. That notwithstanding, I'm sure that this child is going to want to know his father, and I don't know if you are a father, but if you were a father, would you not do anything to fight for your right to parent that child?
Well, I think, you know, of course I'd want to parent my child. I wouldn't have had an affair with a married woman when I was 23 years old, and we could start from there and go. But, you know, in my interactions with Jake's mother, I've gotten the impression that she's the one that wants to raise this child. I've never met Jake, but I always see his mother advocating for his rights. I understand that she shows up to court hearings that he doesn't. She goes to adoption advocacy groups that he doesn't go to. And she comes to the legislature and advocates for a change in law. And I've seen him I've never seen him do that. And so I think the nursery that he referenced is in his mother's home as well.
And let me just end with you, Jake. I know that we really cannot do this subject. It's real justice in our time limitations. But what are you willing to do at this point to be a part of this child's life? What are you willing to demonstrate in terms of your capability to provide, to be responsible, and in order to be a part of this child's life?
Anything it takes. Like, I'm working on building a career for myself. I am willing to move back to Utah and be right next door if they want me to. I will do anything it takes to prove to whoever I need to that I am ready and willing to be in my son's life and wanting to.
And let's just hope whatever is the best for this child is what happens. Jake Strickland, Wes Hutchins, Todd Weiler, thank you all for being with us. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.